Tonight on the Mike Tomlin Show, the Steelers extend their record to 11-0 with a chance to clinch a playoff spot on Monday with a win over the Washington football team. Bob Pompeani and Coach Tomlin discuss sweeping the Ravens and the loss of Bud Dupree for the remainder of the season. Plus, Coach previews Ron Rivera's new team and its young playmakers. And it's Alumni Weekend for the Steelers. You don't want to miss our virtual reunions as we celebrate 20 seasons at Heinz Field. The Mike Tomlin Show starts right now.
Here we go. This pass is caught, and that's a touchdown. That's the way to work. Come on. He's hit that sack. The Steelers win the football game. Let's go. Come get it. You know what it is.
This one is in the history books.
Here we go.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Tomlin Show presented by 84 Lumber. I'm Missy Matthews. After 3 postponements, the Steelers and Ravens finally met at Heinz Field for a Wednesday game, a 3:40 kickoff. The last time the Steelers played on a Wednesday was so long ago that they were called the Pirates, and it was 1936. However, the Steelers ended up sweeping the Ravens for the first time since 2017 in the regular season, the third time under Coach Tomlin. So let's say good evening to Bob Pompeani, who's with Coach, to talk about the Steelers' 19-14 win. Guys?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. 11-0, looking to go 12-0. But head coach Mike Tomlin joins us now. And Coach, I can never remember you being that upset following a win. More frustration than anything else based on your team's performance.
Yeah, it was probably an expression of frustration, but I also want our team to know that that's an unacceptable level of play regardless of outcome. You just don't win many games making the type of errors that we made in game, many of which I outlined after the game. You know, we weren't able to consistently run the ball. We had significant drops and in situational plays in the red zone and things of that nature. We gave up a big run on a possession down at the end of the half on defense that put them in scoring territory. We gave up a big pass for a touchdown in the latter portions of the game. So those are troublesome things coupled with some of the errors that I outlined in special teams. And I'm not worried necessarily about a pattern, but we better acknowledge what we did in that stadium, and we better commit to working to minimize the potential of those things moving forward.
Well, I'm sure the frustration grew even further when you found out about the injury to Bud Dupree. You've already gone through a Devin Bush season-ending injury. This is a devastating one because he was having such a big year. How does it affect your team moving forward?
You know, Bud is a significant contributor. At the same time, we acknowledge, as always, as unfortunate as it is, injuries are a part of the game. And so we'll rally around Alex Highsmith and Ola, and we expect to get positive contributions from those guys. They may not necessarily be Bud, but they could be positive contributors to our effort, and we anticipate them playing better than we expect.
On a personal note, this is a guy who's worked very hard to be in the position he is. Just how do you feel personally for what happened, especially the timing of it, because it will affect his next season as well?
You know, it's always unfortunate, to be honest with you. Bud is a grown man, and so I have very little hesitation about his ability and his mindset in terms of the rehabilitation. To be quite honest with you, I was more concerned about Devin Bush just because of his age and lack of experience. But in both cases and in all cases, when we're talking about injuries such as that, it's just a miserable endeavor, and you feel for him as men.
So you mentioned Alex Highsmith. He has gradually been in there more and more, it seems. You seem to have confidence in him. What are going to be the biggest things he has to do, and how much will T.J. Watt help him on the other side?
You know, he's just got to go through the natural maturation process that's associated with playing and playing more. And it's reasonable to expect his play to get better. We're excited about that. It's nothing that's transpired with him to this point in his career which would lead us to believe otherwise. So there's an air of excitement about the trajectory of his play and what he's going to provide for us.
Yeah, situation there where you have a guy who needs to step up. You saw that with Robert Spillane, and yet we saw more of Avery Williamson yesterday. By design, or was that just a question of him getting in there and helping out when he could?
We got a block of games in a short period of time, and we're taking an all-hands-on-deck mentality, and capable players that we have at all positions. We're going to play a lot of people. We played Avery Williamson a lot yesterday. We played a lot of people in our defensive front. We're just working with the strength in numbers concept in an effort to combat the amount of play that we're going to have over the next course of the next 10 days or so.
I looked at, once again, the pass and run differential, and I know how you feel about this, but 51-20, there were a lot of drops. I just want to get your take. You know how it is to be a receiver. I've talked to a lot of receivers, and most of them will say that's just a lack of concentration. Is that what you saw in that game?
You know, I really don't try to seek comfort in the definition of it. If we're talking about receivers catching or not catching the football, it's a problem. The catching of the ball needs to be a non-discussion when we talk about those that do it for a living at this level.
Running game, even though the numbers didn't say it was all that effective, late in the game, Benny Snell did produce some pretty big runs. Were you encouraged by what you saw from him?
Man, I was really encouraged. Man, his run demeanor, particularly in those significant moments, his awareness, his ability to finish runs, but also stay in bounds. He just showed us some really positive things, particularly over the down stretch of the game, like as you mentioned.
All right. Also, talking about the situation with James Washington, a guy who doesn't get in there all that often, Coach, but we see him when he does. He seems to make plays. There was a big catch he made. He was surrounded by three players, and he went up and made that catch. He seems to take advantage of whatever opportunities there are. Will there be more opportunities for him?
You know, we'll see what this week holds. Like I mentioned after the game, man, we got a great deal of confidence in him, and we have no problems utilizing him. And as you mentioned, man, that was a significant play in a real weighty moment in the game. And we're used to those type of contributions from James, but we got a lot of quality eligibles. We let the matchups of the week talk to us in terms of formulating the plan and the utilization of people. And as you guys have seen over the course of the year, some weeks guys are highlighted and some weeks not so much. And he's been an awesome team player and a guy that's ready every week, and we're appreciative of that.
All right, coming up, it is a short week, of course, and the Washington football team will be at Heinz Field on a rare 5 o'clock kickoff on a Monday. When we come back, Coach will talk about that challenge. Ron Rivera knows him very well. We'll get into that and more when we continue right here. Missy, back over to you.
Okay, sounds good, Bob. And with a win on Monday over the Washington football team, the Steelers can clinch a playoff spot, something we haven't been able to say the past 2 seasons. Still to come here on our show, it's Alumni Weekend for the Steelers, and we're doing things a little different this year, but still bringing our former players together. You don't want to miss some of the reunions. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back, everyone. It is a short week for the Steelers, going from a Wednesday afternoon to a Monday night game, but such is life in 2020, and Coach Tomlin is never one to make excuses. The Steelers get to stay at home, though, once again here at Heinz Field, with the 4-7 Washington football team coming to town with its top 10 defense. Let's check in with Bob and Coach for more.
All right, Missy, thanks very much. Next up, to try to get to 12-0, Washington football team. And, Coach, it's been a crazy couple of weeks with all the COVID maneuvering. What did that Wednesday 3:40 kickoff feel like to you?
It felt like an after-school scrimmage, to be quite honest with you. You know, after the activity, buses leave and things of that nature, it just felt like one of those high school experiences, man. But, you know, we don't seek comfort in that area, man. You give us a time and a location, and our football team will be there ready to play.
Well, the time and the location is 5 p.m. Heinz Field on a Monday, which is not part of the plan, but it affords you to get on a regular schedule after that, hopefully. I want to talk to you about Ron Rivera. You know him well. He's gone through an awful lot this year, and I'm sure you have a lot of praise for what he's gone through, yet managing a team like this, it's a full-time and a half job. Your thoughts about him, what he's done in Washington, given the fact that they're still in contention at 4-7?
I'm not surprised by anything that Coach Rivera is doing. I've known him for a long time. I got a great deal of respect, not only for his capabilities as a coach, but just his general approach and love for football and how his teams reflect that. Over the number of years he was in Carolina, they were a 4th preseason partner for us, and so I had an opportunity to get exposed to him a lot. He's a fundamentalist. His teams are going to play hard. Very rarely do they beat themselves. He's just a very formidable and consistent opponent, and that's why he's gotten the opportunity that he has in Washington, and he's doing what he's doing with it.
And he's a pretty good December coach like you. He's 24-13, so here we are in December. That should be quite a battle. And I want to talk to you about Alex Smith as well, because I don't think anyone would have thought that Alex Smith would even, be in a game, let alone conducting an offense the way he is after everything he's gone through. We talk a lot about Roethlisberger and comeback player of the year. Under normal circumstances, it would be a clear choice for him. Your take on Alex Smith and all that he's overcome?
You know, it's really amazing when you educate yourself to it. And many of us that aren't maybe in the Washington metro area or in the NFC didn't necessarily pay that much attention to it. I have over the course of the pandemic, and his story is really being told with the 17 surgeries and the amount of adversity he faced. It speaks for itself. I tip my cap to him. I respected him in terms of his body of work and the player that he is. Injury aside, we've been into some serious battles with him over the years, most recently in Kansas City. And so we just have a lot of respect for his capabilities and him as a competitor. What he has done battling back from injury and getting back to the place that he is now is inspiring not only to us as people in this football space, but should be inspiring to all.
Washington didn't do all that much in the offseason in terms of big bang. Ron Rivera and his staff kind of went small ball, but they brought in some guys who've had significant contributions, like a Logan Thomas at tight end. You look at Antonio Gibson, what he's done. Those guys are hungry, and I know you like players like that as well. That makes them dangerous also, doesn't it?
There's no question, man. This guy's not living in their fear, working to carve out a role and a resume for themselves. I can't say enough about the quality runner that Antonio Gibson has proven to be in a very short period of time. They got quality young receivers on the outside who they've largely drafted and developed. On the other side of the ball, you're starting to see it with guys like Chase Young. And so I know that he's going to continue to do that, add quality young players and put them in an environment that's geared toward competition and winning.
I know, that defense is a challenge, and your offensive line had to go through a couple of changes with Marquise Pouncey with the COVID situation. Just generally speaking, what's it going to take from them to do what you have to do Monday at 5 o'clock against that Washington team?
You know, we got our hands full with that group. They're top-round draft picks. Much like the group that he assembled over the years in Carolina, there's a lot of first-round picks up front, and they provide the wave that the other people ride. He's got quality edge people, quality depth there. The inside guys, that Alabama tandem is awesome. A young developing player in Tim Settle out of Virginia Tech is proven to be a good third component to that interior rush. They play a lot of people. They are talented. They drafted them in round one and so forth. And so obviously we understand the battle that awaits us on Monday evening.
Finally, Coach, life isn't fair. Football isn't fair in a COVID situation. Things change rapidly as you guys have gone through. Washington has sat there for a long time waiting for this game. You guys, on the other hand, play one, you got to get ready for another one, short turnaround. Does that at all factor into this?
You know, not really. At the end of the day, I would imagine Washington doesn't care about our problems, or they're glad that we have them. And so we understand that, and we'll make no excuses and prepare ourselves to play, and our play will speak for itself.
All right, that's 5 o'clock on Monday. It'll be a chance for the Steelers to go 12-0 and kind of erase some of the things that went on in that game despite the win. And we certainly wish Bud Dupree all the best moving forward. When we come back, we're going to talk to Coach about Alumni Weekend. It's one of his favorite weekends of the year. Even though it's a virtual situation, there are a lot of guys who are connected to the Steelers. We'll talk about them when we come back. Missy, let's go back over to you.
Thanks, Bob. And coming up next, our virtual roundtables as we celebrate 20 seasons at Heinz Field. The Mike Tomlin Show will be right back.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber. Are you 84 Lumber material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
Welcome back to the Mike Tomlin Show. Alumni Weekend for a storied franchise like the Pittsburgh Steelers is always fun when former players come back to town. But with COVID-19 restrictions and for everyone's safety, things went virtual this year. Here's part of our roundtable with Hall of Famer Jerome Bettis and Joey Porter. You guys had the opportunity to play in Three Rivers Stadium, transition with the team to Heinz Field. What do you remember about that process and maybe even just your first steps inside that new stadium?
Well, for me, I remember having played in Three Rivers for so long and knew that it was pretty dated from a stadium perspective, having gone into some of the newer stadiums in the NFL. But it was home for us. It felt like home field advantage. We had the crowd, the sound, the noise, and it was rocking. So when we went into the new place, although it felt like the Taj Mahal because it was incredible. It was first class. We saw everything was great. We were worried about, is it going to sound as loud? Is the fans going to be as into it? Is it going to become more of a social place because now you've got to pay for these licenses? Are the true fans going to be locked out of the experience? And so that was some of the things that we were worried about as players because we want to make sure it's as loud as possible because when Three Rivers was loud, it felt like you could not hear a thing. And so we knew that we had a true home field advantage. We were just a little bit worried about going into Heinz and making sure that it had that same energy and electricity.
See, for me, I didn't spend as much as time as Three Rivers as Jerome did. So for me, I remember can't wait because the turf. We practiced on this turf, then played on it.
That's right,
and
every day.
I was not a fan of the concrete under that turf, so I couldn't wait to get out of there. And another little thing that was funny, I was like, man, why we call it Heinz Field? Because Heinz think it's his stadium. He was like, yeah, we wanted my stadium because his last name Heinz Ward. I'm like, I said, man, how did we name it Heinz Field? Because he was just always telling us it's his stadium.
An Alumni Weekend was extra special this year as we celebrated 20 seasons at Heinz Field, and this next duo of former players had plenty of memories to share about their time with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's Ike Taylor and James Farrior. The 2008 AFC Championship game at Heinz Field, the third meeting between the Steelers and the Ravens. What do you guys remember heading into that game?
I remember everybody talking about how can we beat the team 3 times in a row. I think that was the year we beat them 3 times. Is that right, Ike?
Yeah, that's right.
Both, yeah. And yeah, people just wouldn't believe that we could do it for a third time. And I didn't want to hear all that noise, so I was definitely coming to play.
For me, it was more like Pod Dog say, kind of proven wrong, just going against the odds. And I always felt like being a Pittsburgh Steeler, regardless on how many Lombardi's up on that second floor on the south side, you always just felt like your back was against the wall because that's what people really didn't want to see. They didn't want to see you succeed. They got tired of us talking in the off season, what we got on the second floor on the south side, how many Super Bowl rings we got right now, how good our team is, how good of an organization. So, and we always had an understanding between us and the Baltimore Ravens mutually. Y'all hated us, we hated y'all. So it kind of made the game a little easier mentally, knowing they felt the same way about us.
It's always a physical matchup. That's what everybody always talks about, whether it's regular season or postseason. But for this one, do you almost have to mentally prepare yourself for what that game's going to be like and knowing how much this one means?
Well, being a defensive player, these are the type of games that you love to be in. It's going to be physical. It's going to be hard hitting, and they're going to bring everything they have. So, like Ike said, it is a little easier to, get up for the Baltimore Ravens, especially in the championship game.
And if you missed any of our virtual alumni show from earlier this evening, you can watch the full show right now on the Steelers official YouTube page, and also the alumni online auction is right on Steelers.com, so you can bid on a ton of great items. We'll be right back here with the Mike Tomlin Show.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Once a Steeler, always a Steeler. I know it sounds cliche, but here in Pittsburgh, football really is family, and that's why Alumni Weekend is always very special. I know Coach loves it because you have a chance for Hall of Famers and former players to grace the Steelers sideline before the game. So let's get the final thoughts tonight from Coach Tomlin on this year's virtual Alumni Weekend. Guys.
All right, Missy, thanks. Alumni Weekend, albeit virtually because of COVID. It's still a special time when the Steelers look back at their past, and there's so many great players. I mean, all you have to do is look at the Hall of Fame every year, and there are a couple of guys up for it, as is the case again this year. But, Coach, what does it mean to you to get some of these guys back connected with the program? It's 20 years at Heinz Field now, and I know some of those guys have messages maybe that you could utilize as a pep talk for your own team. What's it mean to have those guys back?
You know, first and foremost, just on a personal note, it's always great to see them, to see how their life's doing, to see how their kids are growing and things of that nature. Man, you cannot have unique professional experiences without real intimate relationships. And so it's good to reconnect with people that you don't get a chance to see every day anymore and just see and confirm how they're doing. The second element of it is their experience and expertise. And, man, we're thankful to have an alumni group that feels welcome, and it is welcomed, and do a really good job of educating our guys. And it happens in a formal way, and it happens in an informal way. Many of our guys still live in town, and they develop off-site relationships, which is really beneficial to our guys. And others, when we're in a non-COVID environment, they understand that we're always open to them, and from time to time, we'll get an alumni guy come by on a Friday. They realize that that's a good day, and it's cool to watch them reconnect and grab a bite to eat and maybe provide some mentorship for our guys. It's just good for all parties involved. It's one of the benefits of having continuity, and it's something that I'm honored to be a part of.
Yeah, that's one great lesson about sports. There are lifetime relationships that go beyond football, and I know a lot of those are very special to you. Coach, thanks very much. Good luck on Monday against Washington.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to do it for our show here tonight. And a reminder to you, tomorrow, 11:30 a.m., we're still on the air with a pregame show, even though the game's been moved to Monday. We have a lot to get into on KDKA. Join us for that, and we wrap it all up every night with the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown on Sunday night. That's going to do it for our program tonight. For Missy Matthews and head coach Mike Tomlin, I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a good week as the Steelers try to get 12-0. We'll discuss it next week right here on the Mike Tomlin Show.